we are finally on a new road trip. After COVID slowed us down in 2020 and most of 2021, we are on the road for our 50-state tour because we've got 49, I've got 49, Barb's got 47, so we're going to hit, what do you got, Nick? Missouri, Oklahoma, and Kansas, and I need Oklahoma. So, there you go. I'm turning sideways. There you go. And see, we see you. Yay. We started off a little bit on the late side this morning because we had some technical difficulties. We had a windshield wiper that was kind of balky, and we had to stop about a mile from the house and buy a new one, and then try to figure out how to get it off or get it hooked onto the car. That was another trip back to the auto parts store real quick. We weren't that far away, but it was just another trip back. Then a long line at Starbucks to get coffee, but finally, we're on the way. And tonight we will be in Paducah, and then on to St. Louis the next day, and points further west. So enjoy the trip, because we're planning on doing that ourselves.
Yes, on the road again, driving this time.
We took Cinder, Goddess of the Universe, over to stay with Lindsay at what we call Camp Kitty. She knew something was up as she went quietly into her carrier.
As I said in the video, we were out to hit the last of our 50 states on this trip.
This trip has been planned but was postponed due to COVID. But with restrictions easing and more venues open, we are finally getting to go.
We planned this trip, or actually didn't plan this trip, to any real timetable. We gave ourselves the flexibility to make changes on the fly.
We had a list of things to see and do, but not knowing what to expect, we just wanted to get away and enjoy the trip.
So starting at home in Marietta, we headed northwest through Nashville to our first overnight stop in Paducah, Kentucky.
We crossed the Ohio River and after some antiquing, stopped for the night in St. Charles, Missouri, on the outskirts of St. Louis.
From there, it was across Missouri and the Missouri River to Kansas City, Kansas. Not to be confused with Kansas City, Missouri, on the east side of the Missouri River.
After bedding down in Kansas City, Kansas, we headed a little further west to Topeka before heading southwest to Wichita.
Upon leaving Wichita, we took a detour to Bartlettsville, Oklahoma, for a chance to stay at a rather unique hotel.
The detour gave us a chance to swing back through Tulsa and Oklahoma City before heading south to Thackerville, Oklahoma to see our nephew, Rick, and his wife, Jenna.
A line of severe thunderstorms moved through Thackerville that night, and in the morning, it was time to start heading east towards home. Our next nightly stop was Little Rock, Arkansas.
The morning found us antiquing again as we headed east to Memphis. Unfortunately, we had some less than memorable Memphis barbecue that night.
But the next morning, we headed out for a pleasant drive across northern Mississippi and Alabama to Huntsville, a town that literally has a bunch of rocket scientists, as NASA has a huge facility there.
Lindsay and I had toured the Space Center before, but we needed to head for home across the mountains of northern Alabama and Georgia back to Marietta and home.
Along the way, we had a really good time and saw and did a few fun things. We'd like to share those now, so sit back. We hope you enjoy them as much as we did. Okay, here's our first stop. We're in Paducah, Kentucky. That's an overnight stop on our way to St. Louis, and it was a pretty eventful ride. I think the GPS, between me and the GPS, we got lost twice. Had to do a little creative driving to get there. A lot of rain and a lot of road closures. But we're here now, and we're hitting one of the sites that we wanted to hit first. So this is this is a strange one, but this is an important one. Yes, that is Hancock's Fabric of Paducah. We're at the home of the National Quilting Museum, and they have probably the largest Hancocks that you will ever find.
I've purchased some of my quilting fabrics from this store online before, but I have to admit I was overwhelmed by the selection in the store. It's a quilter's paradise.
I just stood back and let her do her thing and carry the extra bolts of material to the cutting table.
The damage was minimal, but I'll admit this will not be the only fabric store we visit.
We had already checked into the hotel before heading into Hancock's, so afterward we headed into downtown Paducah to check out the town.
It's a cute town, some great architecture and antique stores.
Okay, welcome to day 2. Paducah, Kentucky.
Salute!
Salute. So we had a really nice night last night at the hotel. The hotel's very nice. And Paducah, we drove around Paducah and we saw some of the sights, and it's quite an interesting little town, you know. A little bit deserted, but it was still pretty nice. This morning, as soon as I get out of this parking spot, we are off to the National Quilting Museum, which is homed here in Paducah. So that'll be interesting. And then after that, we're doing a little bit of antiquing at a very interesting looking store that we saw. And then we'll be headed off to St. Louis, which is our destination for tonight. So the destination for day 2 is St. Louis, after we have seen the quilts and everything else that we found so far here in Paducah. So thanks, we'll see you guys later. Well, here we are at the National Quilting Museum here in Paducah, Kentucky. It's one of the attractions. It's a beautiful museum, and we're ready to head on in and see what it looks like on the inside. Inside is not your grandmother's quilts.
These are true works of art.
These are not paintings. These are individual pieces of fabric sewn together with thread and then quilted.
The vision and technique used is something I can only hope to achieve. I secretly covet this elephant quilt. It's simply exquisite.
And the quilts come in all shapes and sizes, from small to wall-sized, and even quilts as clothing.
This quilt is complex beyond description. It's three-dimensional with folds of different fabric on each side. The frame is also quilted.
If you look closely, you can see an elephant in this quilt as well.
The attention to detail and the preciseness of the sewing is fantastic. The conceptualization, fabric selection, and execution make these true works of art.
There are also tribute quilts. This one of 9/11 is on permanent display. Okay, so what do you think of the museum?
I thought it was fantastic.
Okay.
I think that it's some of the most beautiful examples of art with fabric that I've ever seen, that I could only ever hope to create.
Oh, you can do it. It's snap. Easy.
Yeah,
Easy,
just whip it right out.
That's right.
No, it was really beautiful.
Okay, it's well worth a visit to the National Quilt Museum.
Yes, it was.
All right. Now we're off to the antique stores.
Which is right there.
Oh, it is too. But before we head across the street, we take a moment to admire the Lewis and Clark sculpture on the grounds of the Quilting Museum.
Sculptor George Lundeen used artistic license in the creation of the sculpture. Featured are Lewis and Clark, Lewis's Newfoundland dog, Seaman, a Native American man, and a buckskin-clad child.
We spent some time looking at the antique stores, but didn't find anything interesting. So we jumped back into the car and headed for St. Louis.
Definitely turned out to be the better choice.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning from St. Louis. We are going
We
through...
are actually in St. Charles.
Okay, St. Charles, Missouri. We are going through the morning ritual of getting Starbucks because the coffee at the hotel
Sucked.
was, sucked, paint thinner, whatever other adjectives you'd like to throw in there. So we are headed down to the Arches National Park, the St. Louis Arch, and that's going to start our morning, and then we'll be doing some antiquing and some other things. So join us for the day.
Cheers.
After a couple of false starts, Starbucks is finally secured. We head into downtown St. Louis to Gateway Arch National Park.
I'm surprised how bad the roads are in downtown St. Louis. It's like being back in Atlanta.
Lots of road construction going on as well.
The arch is still closed due to COVID, so we're just there to snap a few photos and a quick video. With the help of some police officers on bicycles, we illegally park at the Basilica of St. Louis, King of France, which adjoins the Gateway Arch National Park. So here we are, Arches, or the St. Louis Arch National Park. This is another one of our national parks that we intend to visit, so we're happy to have made it to St. Louis. Nice weather today, not too hot, not raining. That's always a good thing. So, anything else?
No?
Okay, so we're about ready to head back out and see some more historic sites and maybe some antique stores. We'll be doing that this afternoon too. Okay.
St. Louis is like other big cities. We are really interested in the smaller towns on this trip.
We were more intrigued by the area we just came from, St. Charles.
We didn't have a chance yesterday to explore St. Charles, so we decided to bag St. Louis and head back there.
Maybe we save St. Louis for a future trip. So we drove the 20 miles or so back to St. Charles and found an interesting antique store.
It was kind of high-end and had a lot of Roseville, but the prices were high-end as well, so I only scored a fun little Hummel.
The big draw to St. Charles has to be Main Street in the historic district.
Historic indeed. This is where Lewis and Clark rendezvoused and set off on their voyage of discovery of the Louisiana Purchase.
Your sister would be so proud. For early explorers and pioneers of the 19th century, St. Charles became a place to stock up before heading out on the journey. Today we can wander those same brick-lined streets and shop in those same buildings along the Nationally Registered Historic District.
Well, Paul, before you load up the wagon with provisions, how about we grab some lunch over there at Magpie's?
Sounds like a plan. It was a beautiful day to sit outside and enjoy salad, quiche, soup, and sandwich.
After lunch, we spent several hours walking the historic district.
It was fun just roaming around and looking into various shops. We were acting just like,
Tourists?
yeah, tourists.
One last stop at the bakery to pick up our provisions. Macarons were definitely on the list. Oh, and some scones, too.
Quite a fun visit to St. Charles, but we needed to get going. Going to Kansas City. Kansas City, here I come.
We drove across Missouri and the Missouri River into Kansas to bed down at the Hilton Garden Inn.
By now it was dinner time, and we found a very hip little restaurant called the West Side Local across the river in Kansas City.
One of those trendy farm-to-table places. They were open, and the beer and wine were cold. We weren't very hungry, so we got a meat and cheese board to share as we talked over the day's activities.
I've never seen a restaurant serve mac and cheese with bacon as an entree before. I couldn't take it. I had to break down and order one.
It was delicious.
After dinner, we head back to the hotel for a quiet evening.
Well, good morning. What day is this?
It's Friday. It's Margarita Day.
It's Margarita Day. And today we are in Kansas City. And at the moment we're in Kansas City, Kansas. The bigger city is Kansas City, Missouri. And we are going to visit the Steamboat Museum. And what was the other attraction?
Here?
Yeah.
Antique store?
Yeah, but there was two things. There was Steamboat Museum and the
Union Station?
Union Station. Yeah, we wanted to see Union Station and the Steamboat Museum today. So the weather is beautiful. It's supposed to be warm. It's supposed to be 86 degrees. And that's way above average for this time of year here in Kansas. So we're about to get on the road and enjoy the steamboats.
Find Toto.
Find Toto. Yes, we'll do that.
Our first stop this morning will be the Union Station. I love to see these vestiges of the past and how they get preserved and transformed into useful structures.
While he drives and Google Maps navigate, we munch on the leftover scones from the bakery in St. Charles and some bananas from the hotel.
A small portion of the station is still used by Amtrak for rail service, but the majority of the space has been transformed. There's space for gala events and rental space for weddings or meetings. The city has done a great job repurposing the building, which celebrated its 100th birthday back in 2014. You could still dine and shop here and do so much more.
There are historical exhibits, movie and stage theaters, science and learning centers for the children, as well as a model train exhibit. Just about the time we're leaving, a guard approached us to ask us to put on our masks and, oh, by the way, no pictures.
Oops, just forget you saw all that segment. Not too far from Union Station, atop a hill that overlooks the city, is the National World War I Museum. I remember seeing the tower there many years ago when I was in KC for business. I didn't realize it was a museum.
We drove up for a quick look and a selfie. No time to visit today. Vic got out and did his cinematic duty.
What we really wanted to see was the Great White Arabia Museum. The salvage from the steamboat loaded with over 200 tons of goods that sank in the Missouri River after hitting a sycamore tree trunk snag back in 1856.
The course of the river has moved over the 128 years after sinking. The boat was found 45 feet under what is now a cornfield, a half-mile from the river.
The salvage effort was the idea of Bob Holly, who along with his two sons and family friends David Luttrell and Jerry Mackey undertook the effort in the winter of 1988.
We were walking along, looking at the exhibits, when an older man walks up to me. He introduces himself as Jerry Mackey, one of the 5 original members of the salvage team. He was the excavator operator.
Jerry asked us if we had time, he'd like to walk us around and show us the exhibits. Trust me, it doesn't get any better than having someone with first-hand experience giving you his personal recollections.
He shared personal stories to the items found, items people would need for everyday life that never made it to their destinations.
The Arabia was headed for 16 frontier towns when it sank. The mud and the silt acted like a preservative for the over 200 tons of goods. Even the bones of a mule were discovered, still tied to the sawmill equipment.
The items recovered are almost unimaginable, from wood saws, planers, square nails, machine screws, tools of every type, warm winter clothing, pie fillings, French and English dishes, and crockery.
Cast iron pots and pans, jack boots, guns and shoes, lots of shoes. Shoes for men, women, and children, felt hats and silk fabric, all intact and most in absolute mint condition, brand spanking new.
The most common items found were pins and other sewing needs. Every box they opened was a treasure.
I imagine it's as close to stepping back in time and seeing a general store from 1856 as will ever be possible.
And Jerry was delightful. As was true with all the people who worked on recovering items, Jerry had his favorite thing: a small porcelain doll. The doll was a present to a young child who never received it, a one-of-a-kind personal story.
They even recovered the sycamore tree stump that sank the Arabia, still impaled in the hull.
Thanks, Jerry, for a great and memorable tour.
Time to hit the road again, off to Topeka.
We see some small signs for a combat air museum in Topeka and decide to stop. This is an old Air Force base that is now the Topeka Regional Airport.
The museum is housed in 2 old Quonset hut-style hangars and adjacent tarmac. It is loaded with displays of aircraft from conflicts dating back to the First World War. However, there's nothing really recent.
A number of aircraft have been fully restored, but there are still plenty of project airframes that need some love.
They have a good representation of the major conflict aircraft from the U.S., its allies, Russia, and Japan.
The highlight for Vic was to use the computer flight simulator and fly around the airport. An ex-airline Air Force pilot was his co-pilot.
I didn't crash, did I? A Cessna 172 Skyhawk. I taxied, took off, circled the airport a couple of times, and successfully landed. It was fun.
It was closing time at the museum, so we had to run. The GPS is telling us we are 4 hours from Wichita.
A word of warning about GPS map directions in Kansas. The route it shows you may be some back roads.
Back roads? Nah, we were off-roading.
Barb and I disagree about being lost, but we were way off the beaten path. The GPS routed us through some dirt and gravel farm access roads.
The car got covered in good old Kansas dirt. Eventually we found I-335 and drove into Wichita.
It's Friday night. We check in the hotel and head for Abuelo's for some beans and margaritas. I had the bacon-wrapped pork medallions with enchiladas and beans. Olé! Well, good morning. We're having a lazy morning this morning. We are in Wichita, and today we have a tour of a Frank Lloyd Wright Allen house. That's coming up here this morning, so we're taking it easy here in the hotel, just having a little bit of coffee and just generally getting ourselves together so that we could head out for the day. It's going to be a warm day, supposed to be in the 90s. There are some parts of Kansas that will be over 100 or close to 100, so they're setting new records out here. It's very, very cool this morning. It's very breezy, so it feels quite pleasant now, but it warms up quite fast outside. So after that, we may be doing some shopping for me, looking for a cowboy hat. So next time you see me, I may be rocking a cowboy hat. We'll have to see what's available here. There are several stores in the area where I can purchase one, at least look at them, and we'll have a fun afternoon doing that before we head down to Oklahoma City, and that's where we'll be tonight. But first, we have a special tour planned. We only booked one event for this trip, and that's next. It's the full access tour of the Allen House by Frank Lloyd Wright. Commissioned in 1916 and completed in 1918, Wright's Allen House is named after its first owner, Wichita newspaper publisher and future governor Henry Allen and his wife Elsie. Designed and built in the prairie style, it's a stunning example of the vision of this great American architect.
Prairie-style architecture is a style of building that believes a structure should reflect and pay homage to the surrounding environment. This movement is similar to the arts and crafts movement and is known as the first distinctly American architectural style. Spaces are intended to be functional, flowing, and open.
It was the last of the architect's famous prairie houses, which emphasizes horizontal lines, earth tones, and a continuous blending of interiors and exteriors.
By today's standards, Wright would be called a control freak. He oversaw each project personally, leaving no detail without his personal touch.
For example, to emphasize the horizontal lines of the house, Wright had the horizontal brick lines recessed and the vertical ones flush with brick. The low-sloping roof and the wide overhangs are trademarks of his prairie-style design.
The house has some innovative features, such as central vacuum system and a built-in garage. Garages as a part of the home was something pioneered by Wright 8 years earlier. What's more, it's a heated garage. Cars didn't even have heaters in 1918.
The prairie style was a true departure from designs of the day. For instance, there isn't a front door. The entry door on the side leads you to a foyer with rich wood surroundings.
The use of wood throughout the house is another of the hallmark traits of Wright. In the Allen house, Wright used red gum, which he left in its natural tones. As the house has aged, the tones have only gotten better.
as has the Craftsman style of furniture, most of which Wright designed himself and had built in furniture factories. He had catalogs where people could order the furniture that went into the houses he designed.
Wright not only designed the house structure, he also designed a number of features throughout the interior. The house features extensive built-in bookshelves, cabinets, and seating. Wright also designed the lighting plan and the lights themselves.
One clever trick, the house is heated by steam radiators, but the only place you actually see them are in the bathroom and the guest bedroom. All other radiators are hidden by Wright's built-in furniture.
The dining room is a fantastic display of Wright's use of simplicity of the arts and crafts style. The use of straight lines in the furniture is carried through to the built-ins and even the pattern of the leaded glass.
A hint of Wright's attention to detail can be seen in the china cabinet's leaded glass. In the pattern, there's a small gold square. The use of the gold square carries through all the light fixtures in the room as well.
Adjacent to the dining room is the butler's pantry with beautiful floor-to-ceiling cabinets and a copper sink. This is the pass-through to the kitchen. Not large by contemporary standards, the kitchen boasts additional floor-to-ceiling wood cabinets and another copper sink. The use of copper, a natural metal, is right in line with the prairie style.
In 1918, refrigeration has yet to be used in homes. The icebox was used to keep goods. The Allen House still displays the ice door where the iceman could deliver the order for ice directly into the kitchen.
Also in the kitchen is a built-in table and bench. This was primarily for use by the servants. Just off the kitchen is a stairway that leads to the servants' quarters. The tour does not take you to that part of the house.
Dining room guests were treated to a glimpse of the true heart of the house, the spacious living room just down a short hallway.
This truly is a great room. Wright himself is said to have called the living room one of his best, and experts agree. Architectural writers who have visited it go as far as calling it one of the great rooms of the 20th century.
The scale of this room is truly great. At over 50 feet long and 25 feet wide, with a ceiling of sloping heights, it somehow feels cozy. Add to that, one of the long walls are large doors that open to extend the room onto the patio and the fish pond beyond. This room is considered one of the top 5 rooms designed in America.
Wright's concept was that the house should be part of nature and extend naturally into it. On the other 2 external walls, he designed the brick planters to come up to the height of the room, so even looking out the windows gave you the feeling of being part of nature.
The house contains over 30 pieces of original furniture, including a piano bench designed by Wright. The grand piano, which was originally at the end of the room, was sold after Allen's death.
But it's still in Wichita, and it will return someday as the current owner has bequeathed it to the Allen House.
Even though this room is the largest in the house, Wright has added a closed-in quiet spot with natural light for reading or as a place to have a more private conversation.
As mentioned, the doors on the living room open completely to extend the room onto the patio and into the wall garden beyond.
The garden consists of extensive plantings in oversized planters, a koi pond, a lawn, and the walkway to what was known as Mrs. Allen's tea house. The house borders on 2 sides of the garden. The prairie concept carries through to the outdoor space with the broad horizontal surfaces.
From the garden, you can notice subtle hints of Japanese or Oriental influences in the roofline. Wright was working on a commission for the Imperial Hotel in Tokyo at the same time. Impressed with the architectural style, Wright incorporated it into the roof of the Allen House.
Upstairs, there are the personal living spaces of the Allens. The space is punctuated by the hallway that stretches the length of the second floor.
The space is the art gallery and provides a view to the garden and pond below.
Above the entry foyer is Mr. Allen's study, again with vaulted ceilings, built-in bookcases, and desks designed by Wright. The room is complete with a fireplace. The space is flooded with natural light from the windows on two sides.
The study shares a bathroom with the master bedroom, which is our next room. The master bedroom, why not palatial, is certainly comfortable. A portrait of Mrs. Allen hangs over the bed, and Wright has built-in mirrored armoires for storage. The bed, in keeping with the arts and craft movement, is rather simple. The room is meant as a place to dress, undress, and sleep.
Adjoining the master bedroom is Mrs. Allen's day room. Like Mr. Allen's study, this room has a fireplace. It is also the only room on the second floor to receive direct sunlight. Wright's designed large eaves on the houses to prevent direct sun into the room. This aids in cooling the house in the days before air conditioning.
The day room has a dressing table, a dresser, and desk, all designed by Wright, of course. There is also a walk-in closet. The bathroom has two distinct features. The first is a towering vaulted ceiling with windows that can be opened. The windows not only provided natural light, but when open provided a chimney to vent warm air in the summer.
The second is a Wright-designed toilet. It's wall-mounted. In fact, Wright is credited with inventing wall-hung toilets. The Allens had one daughter, Henrietta. Her bedroom is next door to the day room, and it shares a bathroom.
Henrietta's room also has built-in mirrored armoires for storage. The museum is fortunate to have several of Henrietta's actual dresses to display.
At the end of the hallway is the guest suite. There's a door so it can be closed off to make a private bedroom, complete with ensuite bath, a small sitting area overlooking the pond, and a three-season porch.
The three-season porch was originally just screened in. At some point later, it was fully enclosed.
The guest suite is rather plain, lacking many of the features of the other bedrooms. No vaulted ceiling and no built-ins.
But if you were a guest here, you got the treat of walking down the hallway/art gallery and the view of the pond and the garden. Also that private bathroom and personal space.
The last space we toured was Mrs. Allen's tea house, a rather unique feature which sits atop the gardener's shed.
This is where Elise would entertain her guests for afternoon tea. Wright even designed Noritake bone china, which Elise could have used for all occasions. The entire house has a unified feeling. As you move about the house, each room seems to flow naturally into the next.
While chit-chatting with the docent prior to the tour, he told us of a Frank Lloyd Wright-designed hotel down in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Well, we're headed to Oklahoma. No idea where Bartlesville is, but I'm sure Google Maps can find it.
I whip out the old cell phone and look it up. It's off the beaten path, but everything in Oklahoma is off the beaten path, so I book us a room.
Before we head out for Oklahoma, we need to do a little hat shopping. We found Hatman Jack's in a trendy little area of Wichita. The idea of a cowboy hat, for me, came from a background acting job I did. While working for a shoot for the TV series Monarch that I did a couple of days before this trip, Wardrobe put me in a cowboy hat for a bar scene.
Vic sent me and Lindsay this picture of himself, and we instantly liked it. So now we need to get him a hat, a real cowboy hat of his own.
Hatman Jack has a lot of styles to choose from, not only for men, but for women as well.
There's a lot more to getting a hat than knowing the proper size. You start with the style.
Once you find the style you like in your size, the staff starts the fitting process. It's best to let Jack Kellogg, the owner, describe it.
And in 3 minutes, I can change the shape of the crown until it's perfect for your face. Then, I'd come out here with a brim cutter. I'd take a whack, 2 or 3 cuts until it's absolutely perfect. That's what fitting is all about.
They actually do a lot more. Bend this, change the shape, trim it, steam it to lock it in place, and you're almost done.
Jack's has a selection of hat bands and accessories to make it your own.
Since mine is a little dressier, I just upgraded the hat band. After my fitting, it was Barb's turn. We found this sporty little number just in her size.
Oh, it wasn't like that.
While I look like a duded up clodhopper on Saturday night, Barb rocks in this hat. How are we going to keep her down on the farm now?
Oh, come on now, let's just go.
After grabbing a bite to eat in town, Barb and I made a dash for the Kansas-Oklahoma border.
With me picking up Kansas and Missouri on this trip, I had caught up with Vic. Both of us had 49 states with only Oklahoma to go. We stopped to mark this achievement with a quick snap and then back on the road.
Tonight's lodging will be the Inn at Price Tower in downtown Bartlesville. Bartlesville was incorporated as a town while the area was still Indian Territory. It's best known as the original and longtime home of Phillips Petroleum. Price Tower is a spectacular building of copper and concrete and stands in the downtown area. The tower was built for Harold C. Price as a corporate headquarters for his pipeline construction company.
The part that interests us is that it was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright and has the distinction of being the only skyscraper Wright designed that was actually built.
Originally, it was built as an office tower, but did contain 7 apartments. It was completed and opened in 1956.
Today, it contains a 21-room boutique hotel and an art gallery on the first and second floors. Several rooms are 2-story suites, and because the building is rather small, about 42,000 square feet, there are only 1 to 3 rooms per floor.
But in Wright's fashion, he designed furniture and furnishings to go into the building, and he used his own design wall-hung toilets, of course.
Sadly, we didn't get one of those 1,000 square foot 2-story suites, but a rather more modest room. And good thing this building is on the National Historic Register, because as hotel rooms go, this one was rather cramped and impractical.
Still, we are in a place of historic significance and having fun.
Tomorrow we're off to see more of Oklahoma.
Good morning on a bright, sunny Sunday morning from Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Another lazy morning for us as we slowly get ready to head out.
No need to hurry to beat the traffic. This place is dead. Everyone must be in church. Okay, I'm ready. We're stopping at Starbucks on the way out of town, right?
No can do. Bartlesville has exactly 2 Starbucks, and we are not close to either one. We need to get gas for the car. How about some coffee from Circle K?
You've got to be joking.
Not really. You may need to tough it out till we pass something along the highway.
Great. Where are we headed today?
Tonight we're having dinner with Rick and Jenna in Thackerville. So we are headed south to Tulsa, and then further south to Oklahoma City, and then even further south to Thackerville, Oklahoma.
Well, good. I've never been to Tulsa. When I retired from HP, the old EDS had a big data center in Tulsa. I never got to travel there.
I've never been to Tulsa either. We're just driving around town, nothing planned.
Okay, let's get going.
Heading south on US 75, it's about an hour to Tulsa. The scenery is rolling hills and trees, a nice easy drive.
Vic and I ride around downtown Tulsa. He occasionally stops and jumps out to take some photos. Being a Sunday morning, there is nobody around and only light traffic.
In Tulsa, we once again cross Route 66, the iconic U.S. federal highway from Chicago to Santa Monica, California.
Although removed from the federal highway system in 1985, Route 66 still conjures up images of westward migration that grew out of the Great Depression.
Before the interstate system bypassed many of the towns and cities, travelers along the route marked their progress with some urban landmarks,
such as the metal gold sign here in Tulsa.
And Phillips 66 gas stations, which got its name from fueling a car that reached 66 miles per hour on Route 66.
Make sure we stay on time for dinner tonight. We are hopping on I-44 to Oklahoma City. Vic has a list of Route 66 places there that he wants to see.
First up is the Tower Theater, opened in 1936 with its impressive neon sign.
Just around the corner is Cheevers. It originally was a flower shop started by Oklahoma Belle Cheever, the first baby born in the then newly created Oklahoma City.
3 generations of Cheevers kept the flower shop open until the mid-1990s. Today it's a restaurant but maintains the features of the flower shop, including the 20-foot flower cooler imported all the way from Chicago back in 1938.
Vic and I stopped in for some Sunday brunch,
Next was the Will Rogers Theater.
which opened in September of 1946. It has detailed murals that spelled out the life and times of its namesake, the great Oklahoma cowboy, pilot, and movie star Will Rogers.
The Big Milk Bottle Grocery, all 350 square feet, built in 1930.
The triangular store was built in 1930. The bottle was added in 1948.
Next up, the Gold Geodesic Dome. It was only the 5th geodesic dome constructed in the world when it was built back in 1958.
That was about 25 years before those Imagineers built the one at Epcot in Florida.
Originally a bank, but now a grocery. The last stop is the Owl Court Motel, one of the countless motels built over the decades to serve the traveling public.
The motel has been derelict for a long time. The office/gas station building has recently become a Brew Brothers coffee store.
There are always endless plans to revive the motel, but it hasn't happened. And recently, someone stole the gravity-fed gas pump from next to the office.
And we better keep an eye on the weather. It's starting to look a bit threatening.
Severe storms predicted for later, but don't worry, we're not in Kansas anymore.
Oh, come on. Route 66 was fun and nostalgic, but it's time to head towards Thackerville.
Thackerville is a straight shot due south on I-35, about 2 hours away.
We had planned to stay at the WinStar Casino and Hotel, but it's fully booked. This is the first time we've ever had any trouble getting a room along the way.
We're headed to Thackerville to say hello and have dinner with my nephew, Rick, and his wife, Jenna. Until very recently, Rick was the table games manager at the WinStar.
Now he and Jenna are in the process of moving to Omaha. Rick has accepted a job at a casino in Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Since there are no rooms at the WinStar, we will be at the Red Rock Best Western, next door to the WinStar, just about 3 minutes from their house.
This is sort of post-COVID, and things are strange. No room at the WinStar, and customer service at the Red Rock next door is almost non-existent.
After checking in, we meet up with Rick and Jenna. We set out for the WinStar next door.
The place is huge, and they're building more rooms.
Largest casino in the world.
We try to get into Mickey Mantle's, but the line is out the door and down the hall, well over an hour wait.
Time for Plan B. We take a long walk through London, Madrid, Rome, Beijing, and Paris to get to Vino's Italian Kitchen.
The casino is arranged as interconnected buildings, each represent a different world city. This place is monstrously large.
But the drinks, dinner, wine, and dessert made up for the long walk. It's really good to reconnect with Rick and Jenna.
Yeah, but now we have a long walk back to the car.
Rick and Jenna were kind enough to ask us back to their house.
Even though it's full with boxes and packing material as they're getting ready to move, Rick is actually leaving in 2 days.
This video was shot by my brother on a visit before this trip. I didn't want to take video of their house in such a disarray.
Oklahoma weather was about to give us a warm welcome. Storms and tornadoes are right on our doorstep. Rick suggests Vic park the car in the casino parking deck for safety.
He follows me over and the storm hits just as I park the car. Rick drops me off at the hotel and then heads home.
We go to sleep to the sound of rain and thunder.
Good morning. After a very, very stormy night last night, Sunday night, it's a bright, beautiful morning, clear skies, temperature is much cooler, and we are in Thackerville, Oklahoma. We spent last night here at the hotel. We had dinner with Rick and Jenna last night and had a lovely time. Got to see their house. They were packing up, getting ready to move to Omaha. So they are off on that adventure, and we were able to get to see them here in Thackerville, which is our southernmost, I guess, and westernmost spot on this trip. If I pan around behind me, You can see the casino in the background back there. It is very large. World's biggest casino by a number of gaming slots and things of that nature. So today we're headed back into to the east. We'll be in Arkansas, and hopefully later on we'll be doing some diamond mining, a little bit of diamond mining later on this afternoon, and having additional fun. Rick comes over and drives us to our car in the casino parking deck. We say our goodbyes and head out for Arkansas.
Tonight's destination is Little Rock, but along the way, we want to stop and do some diamond mining at Arkansas's Crater of Diamonds State Park.
This is an easy drive. We drive 5 miles south on I-35 and pick up US Highway 82 and head east. It's a 4-hour drive to the park in light traffic. Along the way, Barb catches a nap.
It's beautiful countryside, but it doesn't change much.
We're off to see America.
Something like that.
Before you know it, we are at the Crater Diamond State Park. Today's fun activity is diamond mining. We're at the Diamond Crater State Park in Arkansas, searching for diamonds. We're here just kind of surface mining, kind of looking through, trying to find anything we can on the surface.
Neither of us remembered it was Columbus Day. We arrived to a full parking lot and tons of families with kids.
And we don't have any tools. Just need to walk around and kick some dirt.
The park will close in about 90 minutes. We need to look fast. The only positive is that it rained the night before, and that helps expose the surface diamonds.
The serious hunters have shovels, water to wash the rocks, a lot of time, and a lot of patience. Diamonds today.
No, but I did find some rocks.
Rocks. Ooh, okay. Well, I think we got a few of those back home.
I think we do.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, we'll have to try harder or go home and
Come
find a bar.
back.
Yeah, probably come back.
Just buy them in the jewelry store. It's easier.
That's exactly right.
Originally, we thought of getting a hotel around here, but decided to drive onto Little Rock.
Barb found us a hotel, True by Hilton. After checking in, we head out to Riviera Maya Mexican restaurant.
I order a medium-sized margarita, about 16 ounces. Vic orders a jumbo.
It was big enough for 4. Tonight's gonna be special.
Really?
Absolutely. It's laundry night. True has a self-service laundromat. Tonight is laundry night for us. So I'm sitting here with the laundry in the hotel laundry center and waiting for the wash cycle to finish so that when it's done, I can take all the laundry and I can put it into the dryer over there, pay another $2.50, get dry clothes so that we have some clean underwear. That's it. Talk to you later.
And with that, we'll call it a night. See you in the morning. Over the next couple of days, we are working our way home. Diamond mining was the last activity we had charted for this trip.
Now it's just a leisurely drive back home. Any stops are unplanned.
We could drive the distance in a day, but where would the fun be in that? A goal for this trip was not to spend all day in the car, driving.
We're headed for overnight stops in Memphis and Huntsville before returning home.
I found a couple of quilting fabric shops along the way. During COVID, I had depleted much of my fabric stock. The first place we found was Stitching Post outside of Little Rock. I found some nice fabrics to bring home.
And we found a couple of antique stores to spend some time in too.
And money! In the Crystal Hill Antique Mall, I found a nice piece of brown Faline Roseville pottery. It has a foil label on the bottom, and this dates the piece between 1927 to 1935.
We've seen a lot of Roseville pottery on this trip.
That store had about 50 pieces. Now it's down to about 48 after my acquisitions.
They also had some antique fishing lures. $65 to $90 for fishing lures? Not from this boy. Barb's Lexus performed flawlessly. Even though her car uses the more expensive 93 octane, he gets considerably better gas mileage than my car. That, plus the larger capacity tank, meant that the range we could drive between fill-ups was over 550 miles.
Hotels are trying to recover business after COVID. I scored us a nice room at the Courtyard in East Memphis, the Germantown area.
We opted not to stay in downtown. We've both been there, done that. No need to go back. But we did decide to try some Memphis barbecue.
The place had a great name, Wolf River Brisket Company, and had a great look on the inside.
Now, if they only had great brisket, they'd have scored the hat trick.
The best things we had were the corn dip and the bread pudding.
Don't forget, the beer was cold, and they had plenty.
Wine, too.
I hear you.
The next morning, we were up and on our way to Huntsville, Alabama.
We are zipping along U.S. Highway 72. It cuts across the very rural area of northern Mississippi and Alabama.
NASA has a large facility here in Huntsville. Lindsay and I visited here last year.
But it's late in the day. We still have time, though, for the Southern Charm Quilter Shop.
And of course, I found some stuff. But now I need to find us a room for the night. Holy snap! Rooms here are a little pricey. I found us a room at a La Quinta.
I've stayed in them before. Rather basic, but usually nice. Not this one.
Straight out of the 1960s, I am wiping everything down just in case.
For dinner, we venture out to the Old Heidelberg Cafe. It's billed as an area stalwart with country cozy decor and a menu of traditional German entrees.
We haven't had authentic German cooking since, well, Germany.
The trip was almost over, and we were both a little sad.
Tomorrow we make the final drive back to home. This was a good trip. I had a lot of fun, and we got to do some fun things.
I agree. I've really enjoyed it. We'll need to plan another road trip in the future. How about hitting all the national parks?
Sounds good. Count me in.